righty. Since we do have a quorum, and it is 2:17, Commissioner Sachs is on her way. Thank you. Much appreciate that. This is 5D1, overview of the cross-departmental teams. And you heard what we said last time. We were snoozing after a while. So I hope these presentations are a little more brief. And I realize we do need all of these presentations before we start budget hearings and budget discussions. So I appreciate you all coming back. Vice Mayor Baxter is going to set the timer for 10 minutes for each team.
Yes.
So if you see you're running down, it means speed up. All right. So who's going first?
Economic development, our team is coming forward.
Okay.
We do have, all the teams have abbreviated presentations.
Thank you.
And we're going to start with economic development, unsheltered, housing development, and then substance use and behavioral disorders.
Perfect. All right. Thank you so much.
Scott Sereno with DHED. The Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners recognizes the importance
Can you,
of...
is the mic on?
Mic? I don't think so. Sorry. Try it. Oh, just talk? Okay, it's in.
There
All
we
right,
go.
There we
Now
go.
we can hear you.
All right.
There you go.
I'll be quick. The Palm Beach County Board of County Commissioners recognizes the importance of economic development as one of the top strategic priorities. The county is well known as a global destination to work, live, and play. To accomplish that, we recognize that this not only applies to visitors, but to every resident of Palm Beach County. To that end, economic development activities are carried out through our county departments and are represented on our team. We wanted to provide you with some quick data on the framework of the county's current economic environment. The county has a diverse industry base, and we continue to monitor trends in order to revise and update strategies to minimize our over-reliance on any one sector and bolster stronger economic recoveries due to either global or interstate competition, economic shocks, or other disruptions. According to the industry data from the State Department of Commerce, these are the top industries of employment growth in Palm Beach County over the last year. The two leading industries include education/health services and construction. We are now going to talk about our 6 key economic goals and how the metrics for these goals are met through varying departments in the county. Goal 1. Over the past 3 years, economic development programs overseen by the Department of Housing and Economic Development have demonstrated significant impact, with every dollar invested by the county attracting an additional $6 in other funding. This funding includes not only the business loan and grant programs administered by the county, but also the contributions from our 6 contract partners who provide essential technical and other forms of assistance to both startup and larger companies seeking to relocate or expand in our region. In the last year alone, these efforts resulted in the creation of 1,700 new jobs and the retention of more than 1,100 jobs through DHED and our economic development partners. I will now pass this over to Andrew Gamboa.
Testing. Commissioners, Mayor, Vice Mayor, County Administrator, good afternoon. Tourism is the second largest sector in
May I
in the
ask you
county.
to hold one second? Does everyone have a copy of the slides? Do you have any extra copies of the slides? You're welcome. Okay. Thank you. We just wanted, but this way when we leave, we also have the presentation because in case you ran out of time, which now we just took 2 minutes of your time. But
That's okay.
Go right ahead. Thank you.
Alrighty.
We'll give you some more time.
Okay. Tourism is the second largest sector in the county. In 2023, the Palm Beach has welcomed 9.5 million visitors, which resulted in an economic impact of $10.3 billion and supporting more than 96,000 jobs in the leisure and hospitality sector. We saw 3.2 billion patron of the arts. Our sports commission hosted 196 sporting events, and our film and television commission issued permits for 500 projects. Investments in infrastructure development, air service, marketing, and other improvements make Palm Beach International, PBI, a premier aviation facility while keeping costs low for air carriers and customers. PBI continues to have one of the lowest cost per employment, or CPE, in the country among airports its size. PBI is also consistently recognized by TSA as having one of the shortest security checkpoint times in the country. All of these efforts make our airport an award-winning facility, having been ranked third best by Travel and Leisure in 2024. Collaborating with the Sports Commission, the Parks and Recreation Development promotes entrepreneurial activities such as special events and festivals, which have resulted in over $10 million in direct spending in Palm Beach County. Additionally, as a host site for many charitable organization events, the park system has helped these organizations raise over $2.3 million. Additionally, P3 concessions such as Shark Wake Park generate millions of dollars in revenue for our local businesses, attracting national events such as the Wake Park National Championships and generating over $500,000 in revenue to the county. I will now overpass it to Ike Powell.
Good afternoon, everyone. Goal 4, revitalize communities to support economic development. The Office of Community Revitalization has made significant financial investments to enhance safety, livability, and community pride across designated county-wide community revitalization team areas. These targeted areas aim to address infrastructure needs, empower residents, and lay the foundation for sustainable economic growth. For example, over $1.1 million has been allocated for the installation and maintenance of 190 streetlights, enhancing safety and visibility in CCRT neighborhoods. Goal 5, support and promote a viable and diverse agricultural industry. The Cooperative Extension Office offers expanded food and nutrition education program, which targets low-income families and youth to reduce nutrition insecurity. Research indicates that for every dollar spent on the expanded food and nutrition education programming, $10.64 can potentially be saved on health care costs, and $2.48 can be saved on food expenditures. Thus, the program's return on investment is approximately $6.2 million in healthcare costs and $1.4 million in food expenditures. Goal number 6, enhance and expand opportunities for paid and unpaid student apprenticeships programs to meet local needs. Student and interns provide valuable support to the county departments while gaining work experience and developing skills. Currently, there are 489 student positions, including interns, and 13 apprenticeship positions in various county departments. We are intentional at growing our own here at Palm Beach County. Depicted in this slide are 3 employees that began their career with Team PBC as student interns with various departments and divisions. Each of these individuals shared a testimony regarding their growth here at the county. Also, as it relates to goal number 6, this summer, Youth Services Department employed and mentored a team of students and paraprofessionals who helped process and manage more than 5,000 summer camp scholarships, resulting in $4.5 million economic impact. Moreover, at the end of the last school year, 203 students had participated in the Behavioral Health Technicians Certification Program, developed in partnership with the Youth Services Department, the school district, Be Well Palm Beach County, and others. Over 70 students have graduated from the program, and 81 students have passed the state Behavioral Health Technician Certification test. Of graduating seniors from this program, 100% of these students have gone on to college or accepted entry-level jobs in the mental health field. The next steps for our team include continue to develop and refine our strategies based on changing conditions and continue to quantify return on investment. I'm certain that you have the full packet in addition to this abbreviated presentation, and encourage everyone to take a look at it when you get a chance, because there's other information in there regarding other departments that we did not have the opportunity to mention. And on behalf of the Economic Development Cross-Department team, I want to thank you for your time, and we'll address any questions you may have along with your feedback. Thank you so much.
We've got plenty of time, so Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have a question back on slide 3, where we have the industries by employment. And then we're at the bottom of it, we're showing number of small businesses, 25 or less, and then number of small businesses with 5 or less. I know we don't have the exact number, but rough estimate, that's probably between maybe 450,000 jobs that would be in that. And we have around 800,000 employed countywide. So, I mean, am I understanding this correctly? Probably more than half of all of our employees actually work for a small business, 25 or less.
So the information there, we took all the businesses in the county and we did a run and we looked at just specifically businesses with 25 or less. Right. Now, those are just the numbers of businesses, and so they vary. I would have to see how much, like what the representation is for the amount of how many jobs they would total out, but we were just looking at it as overall in general, the majority of the county has businesses 25 or less employees.
Okay. Well, I was just kind of estimating if all of them had 5, that was like, I think, 380,000. If some of them are obviously going to have more, some could only have a single employee.
Yes,
So
exactly. So I don't have that number on me, so I can't give that to you.
Okay.
But we can definitely look into it.
If it's something that you could look into, just there's a few initiatives moving forward. I know that some of us were at a meeting where they were talking about potential retirement plan options for businesses that have like 25 or less. And if these numbers are close to accurate, about half the employees in the county probably are working for one of these businesses. Correct? Okay.
Yes, and these numbers come directly from the state.
Okay.
So we do have a direct source.
Okay, so if you could just get that number from, just, it doesn't have to be to the person, but a rough estimate of how many actual people are working for a small business versus everything else.
Okay, just a quick note, the 51,000 businesses are part of the 67, correct?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Anyone else have any questions? This is a great presentation, and thank you for putting it all together. I know we made it brief for you, but you know what? We can absorb this in a smaller, in a smaller bundle. So I much appreciate it. And since we all have the presentations, if there are any more questions that come about after this, we will definitely reach out. And thank you to the whole team for putting this together. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. So the next team will be unsheltered residents.
Good afternoon. How are you?
Hi, Wendy.
Did you enjoy lunch?
Needed it, or else we wouldn't be very patient right
I
now.
hear you. So thank you for the opportunity to present on unsheltered residents. 10 minutes. Okay. Somebody doing slides?
Who's got the slide? Who's got the clicker? Okay.
You're doing them? Okay, great. Okay. In the unsheltered residents, we had 2 goals. One was to reduce homelessness for unsheltered residents in our community, and the second is to increase access to support services for unsheltered residents and prevent unsheltered living to those at risk. Okay, this slide highlights the data from the Palm Beach County School District on students identified as being sheltered. The graphs use 2 definitions of homelessness. One is the HUD and the other is the McKinney-Vento, which capture different populations. HUD's definition includes individuals who are unsheltered, living on the car, or living in the street, or in emergency shelter, safe haven, or transitional housing facilities. McKinney-Vento has a much broader and wider definition, including individuals staying with others, such as doubled up, in hotels, regardless of whether the accommodations are paid for by an individual or through a program. The other side of the slide shows the point-in-time count. Shows the number of individuals classified as either sheltered, living in shelters, safe havens, and transitional housing, or unsheltered, living in the street or in a car, according to HUD's definition. The graph right below that reflects data from the school district on students identified as not being housed, including those who are doubled up or in hotels. Doubled up means you live with your grandmother, your aunt, your uncle, etc. While it's our hope that no individuals are unhoused, it's important to clarify the distinction between the two definitions. For 23-24, the school district, our school district, reported 6,133 students identified as lacking stable housing under the McKinney-Vento Act. However, many of these students were in fact living in temporary or alternative housing situations, with only 651, I say only, it's a lot, 651 classified as unsheltered under the HUD definition. Through a partnership with the district, we are underway to refine these numbers further. Most of you know we have a point-in-time count coming up at the end of the month on the 30th and the 31st. A new dashboard was created in our HMIS system that shows families that are unhoused or individuals that are unhoused and consented to sharing their data. Again, with the school district, you have to have consent. Slide. This slide highlights data from the local continuum of care's annual point in time count, and also highlights the number of veterans in our community who identify as being homeless. The most recent point in time data shows there is an overall decrease in sheltered, unsheltered veterans compared to fiscal year 2023. We are currently working with Built for Zero, a national movement to end veterans homelessness in Palm Beach County. The partnership with Parks is essential not only to address House Bill 1365, but also to ensure that parks remain safe and welcoming for everyone. Rangers who encounter individuals staying overnight will connect with the homeless outreach team and provide a pathway to shelter and essential services. Palm Beach County has taken a firm stance against using punitive measures to address unsheltered living, acknowledging that arrests and criminalization are not effective approaches. Parks and Rec have made signs available for other county buildings where unsheltered residents may gather. That sign's also kind of traveled around the state of Florida as well, so congrats. Next slide. There's concern with the number of exits from emergency shelter back to unsheltered living. We have correlated that back to the lack of affordable housing in Palm Beach County. And you all know what we're attempting to do in order to curb that is find more housing for unsheltered residents in Palm Beach County. Next slide. Okay, this is a coordinated entry system. That's a fairly new system, but it charted 123,000 calls last year for a host of different reasons. We've narrowed it down to the highest volume of calls. Our coordinated entry system for prevention and intervention of homelessness provides services and referrals in English, Spanish, and Haitian Creole. 60% of all calls were for homeless prevention. 862 referrals were sent to our new resource and referral portal that links directly with other departments, divisions, and also the nonprofit world. And I just said all that. Sorry. Next slide. Okay, goal 2 is relocation funds, eviction prevention, utility assistance funding is essential to ending unsheltered living. Also worthy of noting is the HVAC replacement program, which allowed 82 seniors who were considered low income to have their HVAC systems replaced. This, of course, is still a little bit of COVID dollars, so that's why you see so much money in those. Public safety partners with many nonprofits and county departments to employ and house persons returning from incarceration that are unhoused, thus preventing further recidivism. They spent over $150,000 last year in housing. The sheriff saw a need for homeless intervention team. In 2023, there were 3,006 calls to 911 regarding unsheltered residents. Law enforcement is generally the first to be contacted and the first to make contact with our unsheltered residents. The sheriff and his administration saw the need to develop homeless intervention training, which is a 5-day course, 40 hours. The course gives law enforcement training while responding so that they can connect better and provide a bridge to service providers. The newly hired park rangers will also have access to these trainings. I'm sorry Jim's not here, he usually is. Fire rescue often sees unsheltered residents prior to being identified by street outreach teams as well. The partnership created through the CDTs has allowed PBSO and fire rescue to contact outreach directly to make comfort kits. We take them to the emergency room, thus forming a partnership with the medical facilities that are treating the unhoused residents. Summer camp, youth services, contracts with Vita Nova to provide pathways to employment to unsheltered teens and young adults. For fiscal year 23-24, the agency achieved and exceeded all 4 outcomes, and the numbers are up above. And I believe this is almost our last slide. Parks to Work has been an amazing partnership with Parks, PBSO, and Community Services and our nonprofit partners. This initiative teaches job skills, both hard and soft. The initiative has been so successful, it's been expanded into the culinary world, operated by the Lord's Place. And the last slide here is just best practices and our responses for improvement to access to social services. And it lists the program and then who's responsible for it, what's been done. And with that, I say thank you very much.
Question. The Homeless Coalition, what does it have to do with anything that this cross-departmental team is doing? Can anybody answer that question?
No, I'm sorry. That's kind of a loaded question.
It is a loaded question.
They're supposed to raise money to fund housing for the unsheltered residents, and they're also supposed to be an advocacy arm for the homeless.
Okay.
That were the only 2 things that they were charged with doing.
Okay. I have more questions, but I think that'll do it for now. Anyone else have questions? Okay. Commissioner Flores?
Hi there.
Hi.
We talked about shelters. When it gets cold, do we open shelters?
We do, but it has to be, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 40 degrees for a period of 4 hours consistently, or a wind chill of 35 consistently for 4 hours.
40 degrees for us to open a shelter.
Yes.
That's freezing. It gets below 50 and I'm freezing. So have we received any feedback regarding that? Because I
Yeah, this
understand
was
the
a
partners to our
discussion
south
last year.
open up at 50.
Last year, it was a big discussion, and it was agreed that it would stay.
And what was the discussion about, and why did we decide
Ms.
40
Baker?
instead of 50?
The current practice policy is that we open shelters when it is 40 degrees sustained. It has to be sustained for a number of hours. The county does not actually operate the shelters. We work with, I know we're staff, is it Salvation Army, Red Cross that we work with, and we only open a certain number of shelters. The discussion did come up. We had I know one commissioner from Lake Worth that thought we should open the shelters much sooner. That is definitely something if the board wants to change policy. It has been that way for a very long time. If the board wants to change policy, you give us the direction, we will work on that. But it comes with a cost because they will open those shelters, they will, keep them open for a period of time. So right now, we're at 40 sustained, and I'm a Floridian, so when it gets below 75, I'm cold. So I do understand that, and I think about that, but we had a internal discussion on it, and it's at 40. If the board wants us to change that, then, you give us those directions, we can change it, but it does come with a cost.
So I don't want to give direction just yet, but I would like to do a study of some sort. Tell me how many days
Okay.
of the year do we have sustained temperatures of 50 degrees or below? And what is the price tag to something like this? But at 40 degrees, I'm dying. I can't imagine somebody who's sleeping outside. And I know this is usually about a 3-month period that this occurs, but I think we at least should find out what the numbers look like.
Yes, sir.
Thank you so much.
We can do that.
And I think with that, it would also be, what do other communities in the same instance do? What do other counties do? And it's not because I want to be discriminatory or anything of that nature, but, the metrics have been in place for a long time with the reasoning for it. So it's not just for the research wouldn't just include our community. It would have to include other counties and that, would be in the same situation, same,
I think we collected all that information last year, and we'd be happy to present it again.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think our partners to the south is 50 degrees. Who?
Yeah.
But I believe that the threshold is at 50.
But that's a different animal, a different entity that's taking care of that. Those are, and again, as Ms. Baker said, we're not the ones with the shelters themselves. So it's up to
But we pay for it.
We pay for it, but it's up to the entities
Yeah.
too.
And Broward is, as you stated, Commissioner, they are nonprofits, and the county is not involved in it. The nonprofits handle it. But we'll look at it and bring back the information that you requested.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. As a follow-up to what Commissioner Flores was saying, perhaps there could be a look or analysis at the number of days per year that is sustained 40 and the number of days sustained at 50 and below. And maybe that's over 3 years or so, a fiscal impact analysis of what that would cost us. Also, the analysis in terms of the difference between 40 degrees and 50 degrees to those people who it impacts. My question is also relative to county staff. How many people are now shifted to staff these shelters? In addition to, are the shelters fully utilized once they're open? And now that is the question. If the shelters are now open at 50 degrees and 3 individuals are utilizing them and we've got 20 staff members, does the cost outweigh the benefit? So those are things that as we analyze the question that Commissioner Flores had, that I would like to know.
And I'd just like to clarify that Red Cross brings in food, and then county employees, actually our employees, run the shelter. So we're there all night running the shelters. We have one at the Westgate Community Center usually, or gym, and there's one in Belglade. I can tell you almost every year we open the Belglade one, and every year we have like 1-2 people there. So in order not to pull my staff out and send them out for 1 or 2 people, we shifted them over to the emergency shelter in Pahokee. or in Belglade, whichever has openings, because they're there all night or not.
Thank
Just
you.
trying to save money.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And thank you for the work that you guys do and your team does. It's amazing. My question, though, is on slide number 3, and trying to understand a little bit about the McKinney-Vento way of looking at this. Because I know in a lot of families, we have extended families living together. And so do they differentiate if it's through, the family just, that's the way?
If the family identifies, the school district gets their information when the child registers and the parent fills out the form, and they check doubled up or homeless or whatever they are.
Okay.
McKinney-Vento funding allows that to happen. And quite frankly, the more numbers the school district has, the more they get paid. And that list never cleans up. So it start with 0 at the end of the year, or at the beginning of the year, at the end of the year, you're at 6,000, but you don't know how many of those 6,000 have already been served by other nonprofits or in shelter and permanent housing, whatever it may be.
And then,
HUD's definition, excuse me, Commissioner Brett,
No,
HUD's
that's okay.
definition does not include doubled up.
Because, I know just, family dynamics have changed, and in some ways too, we have a lot of grandparents that are raising their grandchildren.
And that's what I was going to say, as I was raised by my grandmother, I would have been in one of those homeless counts.
Right,
But I was in no means homeless.
right. So it's a little more opaque than when you take a first glance at it. So you really need to drill into it to really
just trying to
understand.
pull those back.
Understood. And then just to add on to the discussion about the cold weather shelters, where are the houses of worship, and why aren't they opening up their doors? Don't they exist to?
Not really since Westgate Tabernacle have I heard of anybody really using churches. That kind of put a sour taste in everybody's mouth.
Okay. Thank you.
Commissioner Sachs, do you have a question?
Thank you, Mayor. So right now, we have 2,126 homeless persons, but we're going to make another count this January.
Right, and that's a 24-hour count, so it's really a snapshot. You hope.
But
you
that
can get-
everybody does it at the same time, that
Across the country.
snapshot for the homeless individuals.
Yes.
And that's the number that we use.
Yes.
And we have, according to the statistics that you've given us, 283 homeless kids, school-age children. And they would be defined as living in the streets, in a park,
Living in a car,
living in a
abandoned
car,
place,
but not necessarily with grandparents.
in a shelter.
Now, we have how many shelters? Palm Beach County shelters.
For families or singles?
Just tell me
Or both. We have about 2 family shelters, Program Reach on the coast. And then Melissa's Place in the west does both families and singles. We have the Senator Philip D. Lewis shelter on 45th Street. And then we have the new facility, the Housing Resource Center on Lake Worth Road. And we have a assessment center in Belglade that has 6 beds in it. And then, again, Melissa's Place serves as an emergency shelter
Right.
for up to 18 households, and then 22 per transitional housing.
Right now, today, do we have a bed available for a homeless, I don't want to say child, but somebody under school age, let's say child, or a homeless person, individual, in the county at one of these county shelters?
No, ma'am.
I know. What do you suggest that this county do?
Well, I've always been a big fan of tiny houses. I know Ms. Baker.
I could kiss you right now, I tell you. But I won't, because I'm sure it's unethical.
If you haven't seen the new cottages, though, I really encourage you to go out and see the cottages. They really are beautiful. And
So
they're
what-
spacious. But
Tell us, give us advice, because I had one, and I thank God for Dr. Green, because I had a woman contact us this weekend, and she had to send her kids away, which is scary to me, single mom, 3 little kids. And she had no place to go in this county of how many billionaires, millionaires, and 7 really focused county commissioners. So I need advice. I need suggestions. I have a feeling, looking at this chart, and looking at this chart of how many unsheltered residents live in Palm Beach County, we're going up, and I have a feeling that that may go up after we take our count in January. So whatever we're doing, we're not succeeding. So I'm looking for you all to give us advice. Where do we go from here? It's not going to get better. It is really cold in the north, and it's really rough out west in California. And we live in paradise, and I hate to see kids, in this situation. So I'm looking to you. I know you're giving us information, but I'm looking to you for advice. That was the 3rd woman who contacted me on my email. I don't know them personally, but I do know that night these women slept on the street. And
Commissioner, I mean, at the end of the day, we need affordable housing. We need affordable, I just can't say that loud enough. The new facility that was built by the train tracks. Take a look, open up.
I know, it's
Open up
beautiful.
Luminaire's,
Right.
Website and see what affordable is. I
Right.
mean, it's $5,000 for a 4-bedroom, 3-bath rental. And they're Cracker Jack size. But there's not a lot of rentals out there that folks can afford, and especially knowing our community is a service community. And until we address that, homelessness will continue to increase.
Are you an advocate, a proponent of these tiny houses, tiny cottages, in deference to
Very much
Ms.
so.
Baker? Okay, I appreciate that. From what I have read, and I'm not an expert in this, what I have read, it is the only thing that cures homelessness. And doesn't it make sense if you give somebody a tiny cottage with a kitchenette and a private, their own bath, and a little bed and a key to the door? That's the answer. You know better.
Key to the door.
Key to the door, so that if they're not going to be accosted or raped or beaten up or their shoes stolen, and surrounded by support services, then I think that maybe this is something we should explore. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
I'm going to come back to the tiny cottages, but I had a couple of questions to start with the McKinney-Vento program.
Yes, ma'am.
It was a little alarming to see that it's HUD's definition, it's almost 10% of what the school has as a definition, and they're using the McKinney-Vento. And you mentioned that I guess it's almost incentivized for that to have a larger number as far as funding.
Mm-hmm.
Can you expound on that a little bit more, please?
Well, it's kind of like when you have a lot of kids that are low functioning. I mean, you get more money from the state if you're, what do they call it, Title I school, I believe. Same philosophy. You have more homeless children, you get more specific money for that, to serve that homeless child.
Is this a state or federal definition?
This is state.
This is state. Because it is concerning to me anytime, we're,
Well, McKinney-Vento is a federal.
McKinney-Vento is
law.
federal. I
Yes.
thought so. Okay. But it's,
But how we've interpreted it in Florida is consistent across all counties.
so each state can interpret that.
don't
What
think
I'm
the
getting
state
to
can
is it
change
is,
The state could take their funding and say, hey, you can serve doubled up, which they have not done.
because it is concerning if we're not working towards solving the problem. We're looking on how do we get more money for the problem that exists or maybe doesn't exist, but we can count it anyway. And is that money being diverted from some of these others that I see we do have? I was also confused. We do have 368 that are showing sheltered. Does that mean in a shelter, like one of our shelters,
An
or?
adopted family could be in a permanent housing setting with one of our family providers. And that's what we're trying to do, is the school district doesn't use the homeless management information system that we have, is creating that bridge for those parents that say it's okay to begin to capture that kid's data and that family's data so we can compare apples to apples instead of right now I feel like we're comparing apples to oranges.
Yes. So the 368 that's showing, those are actual students that are in the school district that are at some point during the school year, or is this a snapshot also, or is this something that's the beginning of the school year, this is where they are?
If they put into HMIS, that's where we're pulling that number from.
I'm sorry,
So if they put into the homeless management information system, we're able to pull those numbers, and that's been happening a little bit.
Okay.
So that's where those numbers are coming from, and school district self-report.
Okay, so this is all self-reported through the school district, the 283 that are either cars, parks, or I'm guessing just that's
Yes, ma'am.
unsheltered, and then
Yes,
living
yes.
in a shelter, 368, and then these other numbers are,
Yes.
not that it's not an unfortunate situation, but they're
Yes.
not in the elements, or
That's
they're
correct.
not, there's some help
They
there
have a
for
roof
them.
over their head that they can
Yes.
stay, for a little bit at least.
Okay, so, and as far as that number, do we have the HUD definition through the school district to see where that's trending, taking out the
That's what-
McKinney-Vento?
That's what we're trying to do with
That-
the HMIS, with the bridge,
Okay,
the data bridge.
so before, we only had the bigger number that they count
That's
all of it, okay. All right, thank you. And as far as the tiny homes,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not against them by any means. Land, I think, is always our biggest issue. Where do we put them? Because land is scarce for everything that we want to do right now.
Yeah, I mean, my thought on that is San Francisco did non-conforming lots. So all these little lots that you see that you just can't put stuff on, they did non-conforming lots. And
Wow.
they made it really, I mean, they made it pretty, so it wasn't like you were looking at, a non-conforming lot. I can think of a couple that Lake Worth has, in roundabouts. They would do just creative things. And I think we've got to start thinking outside that box.
And I'm open to hearing some of those. I just do want to be careful that we don't oversimplify that would solve
It will
this,
not.
because it wouldn't. I mean,
will
there's a
not.
multitude of reasons why this happens. Some people, it's a very temporary situation, life knocked them down. Others, it's a very different situation that we're talking about. And I think
Yes.
it's important that we differentiate those. There's chronic homeless. There's people that will not go into that no matter what we do. It's a lifestyle choice. So I think it's important that we find a way to kind of really know
agree.
what we're working with.
I agree wholeheartedly.
Because I don't want to oversimplify, if we just do this, then we're going to fix it, because that's not the case, in my opinion.
But if we don't have places to put them to begin to offer services, then we never begin, I guess.
Thank you. Vice Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Commissioner Sachs has wanted these tiny homes, and she's mentioned them several times over the past few months. And I think because she is the District 5 commissioner, if we could maybe identify some property in that district, then we could proceed forward. But, so District 5 would definitely be the place to start. This is her baby, and she wants to see it through, so let's do that. Thank you.
Commissioner Sachs?
Yeah, I got 5 kids. I got enough babies. 2 grandchildren. Let me just give you a little background on it. It is a study that came out of our municipalities in Europe. We're not the only community that has homeless. Rome, Paris, London, you say it. They got a lot, and we do too. our cities are crowded with homeless individuals. And we've had them for a while, and I worked with this when I was in the legislature, and we just try to do their best. But now they have the study that says that it proves, and I can send you the study, that if you put an individual, homeless individual, depending on their problems, it could be opioid, it could be alcoholism, or it could be that they just got evicted from their house, their apartment. They can't pay the rent. So the housing, the type of housing depends on the individual that you're working with, and it's a complex issue. They're not all the same. The majority of housing of unsheltered folks in Palm Beach are there because of housing costs. They were evicted. Many are single women with kids. And we just don't give them a lot of notice. We just throw them right out in the street. And I got to mention Dr. James Green, because everyone who came to me that was on the street, I referred them to him, and he went to them. So if it's someone who just needs to get on their feet again because they don't have a job to support that housing, then we give them a tiny cottage, and not more than 8 to 10 to a community. And with children, they're on a bus corridor so the kids can get to school. These are mini cottages. They're built to the highest building codes of Miami, and they are here to stay. They got good foundations. But the person in that cottage is not there to stay. They're only there to stay until we give them the dignity and the security of being in a house, tiny house, and the opportunity to get a job, get a phone, get on that bus and get a job. Once they get the job, they put their money aside and they get our affordable housing, which we are building here in this county. We should be proud of it. Those individuals who have addiction issues are surrounded, those cottages are surrounded by support services, which we have here in the county. Many support services, good support services, and they will work with those individuals. So let's say Tom's got an opioid addiction and he walks out of that cottage, because Tom's going to go look around for something. Tom walks out of that cottage, right in front of him is support service. Hey, Tom, we got a group session going. You come on with us. And all his buddies are next to him, and they're all looking out for each other. So what they have said in this, in the research, and I'll send it to you, is that they form a community of helping each other. And they're all men or they're all women. We don't mix. And Habitat for Humanity is on board, because these individuals will work to build others and they maintain their little cottage community. And once they get on their feet, they're on a bus corridor, they get a job, and off they go to be a part of our community. We will never completely do away with homelessness, ever. But what we can do is we can stop this chart from going up, and we can make it so that we give the dignity and the opportunity for someone who's down on their feet, man or woman, whether it's not enough money to afford the rent or they just have addictions, to get on their feet, give the dignity of that little cottage, and off they go. Property is true. It's very true. It's hard to get land. We don't want to use city land. We don't want to use county land. What we do want to do is we want to use distressed properties like you were talking about. Distressed properties, we've already identified a number of them. I'm checking with our mayors. Most of the distressed properties are where the homeless are, in the cities and close to the beaches. Clematis Street and up here and other areas up here. I won't name the cities, but we know them. And the mayors are working with us to be able to provide access to these distressed properties that will be purchased by federal funds. We don't need to spend our money on it. We have a lot of federal partners that are willing to work with us and are willing and are working with us to build these. So the way I look at it, I'm no expert on this, believe me. I never was, and that really is not my ballywick, as I said to Ms. Baker. You're much better than I am, but I do know this. You got to research it. You got to figure out what works, what doesn't work. I know what doesn't work. let's try what seems to work in Seattle, in Ocala, in Orlando, in Tallahassee. They have mini cottages. Let's see what works. Let's try it. It's worth a try. These are our people. And let's go from there. So that's a little bit of my
Thank you,
background on
Commissioner.
it. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, now we are on to our next
Housing development.
housing development. And we're not going to have any more discussion about tiny cottages. Unless we're in District 5. No, I'm only kidding. All right, thank you.
Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, County Administrator Baker. My name's Carlos Serrano. I'm with your Department of Housing and Economic Development, but standing here today representing the Housing and Unsheltered Persons Cross-Department team to speak specifically on the priority for housing development. Our team, I think you met them during the last presentation, we work towards the common goal of increasing the ability of those who work within Palm Beach County to afford to live within Palm Beach County. The Workforce Housing Program requires housing serving 60 to 140% of the area median income. That's from $62,000 all the way up to $145,000. That's required in new residential developments of 10 or more units in the unincorporated area. Since its inception, more than 3,500 housing units have been required by the program, including 2,400 rental units and 700 homes for sale. The program has generated over $25 million of in lieu fee payments, and during 2024, the program celebrated its 229th sale to a workforce homebuyer. In November of 2022, county voters approved a referendum authorizing the county's issuance of up to $200 million of general obligation bonds for housing. The following year, the board approved a housing bond allocation process establishing policies for loans for the development of affordable or workforce housing. Early last year, HED issued several housing bond loan program RFPs that resulted in 12 proposed projects. To date, the board has given final approval to 4 projects that total $29.9 million in housing bond loan program loans and $5.1 million in housing initiatives program loans that across those 4 approved projects will total 481 housing units. Another 7 projects totaling $37 million in housing bond loan requests and $12.6 million in housing initiative loan requests have received conceptual approval from the board and are at various stages of underwriting. On January 28th, the Department of Housing and Economic Development will bring a workshop item to the board seeking your direction on bond allocation process policies and procedures. The Facilities Development and Operations Department and HED are partnering on new initiatives to utilize county-owned real estate for affordable and workforce housing. FDO will develop single-family homes on approximately 50 infill lots scattered countywide, and HED will then sell those homes to homebuyers at affordable and workforce prices. The Brooks subdivision is a vacant property in Riviera Beach, which came to HED through foreclosure and is now being developed by FDO with 22 single-family homes for sale. County-owned parcel adjacent to the new Canyon Branch Library west of Boynton Beach will be made available for development of at least 59 multifamily units. And a surplus vacant 6-acre parcel on Okeechobee Boulevard just east of the Turnpike will be made available for development by a private developer to be selected through a RFP to be conducted by the Property and Real Estate Management Division. During fiscal year 2024, HED assisted a total of 604 housing units for very low, and moderate income households. This was through new construction, rehabilitation, acquisition, and mortgage assistance. The chart on the left breaks down those 604 units by activity type, including progress towards the board's priority of increasing housing inventory with the completion of 409 newly constructed affordable units. The chart on the right shows how the 604 units serve various income groups. Over 80% of the units assisted will serve households with incomes no greater than 80% of area median income, or $85,000 for a family of 4. Here's some examples of HED projects that were completed in 2024. Top left, Island Cove and Delray Beach, which had received impact fee assistance from us for new construction of 60 multifamily units. Top right, Wells Landing and Boynton Beach received a SHIP loan and impact fee assistance for 124 new multifamily units. Bottom right, Habitat for Humanity, a newly constructed home out in Pahokee, then a couple examples of homes that were rehabilitated through the HED implemented housing rehabilitation program. We currently have 27 HED funded projects under development with a total of $62 million of county funding that upon completion of these 27 projects will total 2,187 newly constructed units and $597 million of total development activity. So we've got a lot going on. Some examples there, top right, Madison Terrace and Lake Worth Beach, another impact fee project. The bottom right, Coleman Park Renaissance and West Palm Beach, that's with one of our local not-for-profits, Neighborhood Renaissance. Those units target low and very low income tenants. And then out in Pahokee, the One North Lake project with some of that Housing Initiatives Program funding. This slide shows the team's 2024 performance towards the housing goal and summarizes the metrics that were detailed on the previous slides. On this slide, you see a whole lot of organizations that have banded together to serve the housing development priority, including county departments, public housing authorities, and our private for-profit and not-for-profit housing developers. Together, we work to create new, affordable, and workforce housing inventory and to preserve existing housing. Next slide, please. So the countywide housing dashboard provides residents with online access to county and municipal affordable and workforce developments, providing a link to housing resources and highlighting successful public-private partnerships. And I think we're going to real quickly give you a brief demonstration of how the dashboard works. This is Scott Serino of Housing and Economic Development.
So if you click on the housing locator, so before we click on the map, I apologize. This is the website that'll that the residents will see of Palm Beach County, and basically it has what can I afford, and then it also has the map, which is really important for residents who are looking for housing. So once we click on the housing map, we have updated this map to basically allow residents as like a one-stop shop to find housing that's affordable and workforce all in one place. So they can filter through municipalities if they have a preference on what part of the county they'd like to live in. They can filter through all the municipalities and unincorporated. They also have a commission district that they can filter through. But I think it's really more important that, you know, they have an area where if they have something in mind, they can go to. And from there, you get a map. So you can either use the map to kind of find where you want to go, or there's a table below that basically shows the list of projects that are either in the municipality or in the county. And it gives them a total number of units. Those are total units. And then it also gives them a type of, whether it's affordable or workforce. And then if they click on a project, it should populate on both the map and the web page to the left. So it's really a one-stop shop. If the website, so sometimes it's not available because it's either small, a lot of this is voluntary that they provide this information to, but sometimes it's security reasons. So there's a section called website on the list, and if they click on the link says click here, so try the 10X one, and you hit yes, it'll take you to the website. And so there you can have all the contact information that you need to then apply for workforce housing. So 10X has a workforce housing section, and then this kind of just allows residents to have a one-stop shop to find housing that meets their needs.
Thank you, Scott.
Just real quick, Commissioner Sherry Howard, Department of Housing and Economic Development. The way this website, just 1 minute. The way it was created was that they are projects that have had funding through our department, and then also we reached out to cities. And so this database is as good as the information that we get from the municipalities. This is a county-wide dashboard, not just the county. So we try to be all-inclusive of projects that everyone is involved in. So that's the information, and that's how it gets into the website. Just wanted to let you know that.
Thank you, Sherry. And I understand we're out of time.
No. If there's something else you need to wrap up, we're happy to do that.
That brings us to our conclusion. We timed it just about perfectly, and I'd be delighted to address any questions you may have.
Commissioner Flores.
Can I make one statement?
Sure.
So the complexity of homelessness is huge. And how do you eat an elephant? One bite out of a time. So this team was invited by the Florida Coalition to End Homelessness to come and present. Because most of our benchmarks are folks who are doing one-offs or a Band-Aid solution versus a holistic approach. What's great about this team and the feedback we got at that presentation is that we are looking at every aspect of not only affordable housing, workforce housing, and homelessness. We had, they were really, really surprised that we actually had the sheriff department as part of this team. They really couldn't believe that. When we actually said that we had parks and libraries and DHED and community service and youth services, public safety, all on the same team, it was as if we had gave them the greatest thing since sliced bread. So I just wanted to say that because it's going to take a village to solve the problem, but at least we have the right people at the table to talk about the issues.
Thank you. We have several questions. Commissioner Flores.
We're having our little meeting back here. No, in all seriousness, I think your first slide, you talked about the in lieu program.
That was on the workforce housing program, slide number 3.
Yeah, can we talk about that program real quick? How does it work? When do we require it? When do we require workforce housing?
What do we require of workforce housing?
Right, yeah, right. When we ask people to, for a certain percentage.
I'm going to have Michael Howe of the Planning Division of PCNB step up. He works directly with the Workforce Housing Program and participates on the team.
Awesome.
Mr. Howe?
Yes. For the record, Michael Howe, Palm Beach County Planning. When developers come into the PCNB, they're going to develop a project. Our program has set up any development in the unincorporated area in the urban suburban tier of 10 units or more are going to have a workforce housing obligation. So there's a mathematical formula that we will explain to them and work with them, but every project's different, every piece of property is a different size, every land use designation for the number of units that they can utilize. So it's not a one-size-fits-all type of program, but it's been on the books since 2006. It really got kicked up after the Depression came back up in around 2010 or so. We started seeing units. And as the slide shows, we've got over 3,500 units that have been approved for workforce housing, in the developments that have come through the development process.
So now explain to me how the in lieu program works.
That's one of the options that a developer has. They can pay an in lieu fee to get rid of that obligation. But only about 13% of the units that have been approved have gone to the in lieu fee route. You know, there's this talk out there in the community that everybody buys out. That's not true. It's only 13% of all the units. The other units are in the process. They've either already been built or they're in the development process.
So when we have in lieu, what is the in lieu fee?
Well,
What
the
are they
in lieu fee
contributing to the
is
bucket?
based on the different sizes or different types of housing that's being proposed. At the present time, it's around $142,000 to buy out of a single-family housing obligation.
Can we build a house for $142,000?
No, you can't.
So why are we charging an in lieu fee of $142,000?
That's a good question. We'd like to charge more, but it's hard to get support from the industry when we go in that direction.
So this is why I'm bringing up these questions, because for $142,000, we can't even, we can't do much.
Yeah, the board has
Commissioner
directed us.
Flores, hold on one second. I'm going to, it's not like me to do that, but I'm going to interrupt because we had the in lieu discussion, and as a board and as consensus.
I haven't had that discussion.
No, but I'm letting you know. I'm bringing you up to speed with what had happened previously. Even though in lieu is in your slide, as a board, over the past several years, we've said, no, we're not going to do in lieu anymore. We need those houses to be built.
Right.
So I think that might actually answer
That's
your
great.
question.
That's what I wanted to hear from my fellow commissioners.
There you go. So that's why I interrupted, because yes, we still have dollars that have been collected, which is what this is covering here. But as a board, we made the determination that we wanted those units on the ground and we didn't want to do in lieu anymore.
And we've used the board has directed us to use these funds to assist the purchasers of the workforce housing units.
So is
they
there an
can use-
opportunity to increase that in lieu fee?
That'll be up to the board.
Yeah, I want to revisit that. All right. That concludes my questions. Thanks.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor.
Hold on one second. Administrator Baker, your light is on. Did you want to add, subtract, or?
Well, just to add, we agree with you. No, the mayor is absolutely correct. This board has determined that we're no more buying out. We need the units on the ground. If, we can always, based on board direction, go back to start looking at the calculations just in case the board decides someone can buy out. I hope you don't, but in case you do, then we can also increase the cost.
I guess for me, it would be about sending a message that we can't build anything for $142,000. So if they want to do the in lieu fee, then pay us what it costs to build a house.
Which is, I think, that was the sentiment of the board, and that's where they said build the unit and not buy out. Okay. Commissioner Woodward, you were next.
Yes, and thank you, Mayor, or Commissioner Flores, for bringing that up, because I was in agreement as well, and I still, even if it were more money, I would rather them build the units. I don't want them to give us money and then we have to build the units. They need to build the units. But yes, good points for that. I did have a question, the database. I know that we had discussion before on compliance, and knowing that I think before it was like an annual reporting for any of the rental properties on who they had leased to, and we were changing that to have it by the turnover of the lease. They still have to report to us. Where do we stand on that, and how are we doing on knowing that all of the AMIs that were deed restricted, the promises, because some of these apartment complexes, it's not like it's that building over there. The units are spread out throughout the complex. How are we doing on the compliance monitoring part of this?
I'm going to let Michael Howe speak again as to the changes to their compliance monitoring practices.
Yes, we have, over the last couple of years, changed completely how we do compliance monitoring. We had been doing an annual report, which was like looking at it after the fact. Obviously, we had identified problems and issues. So as a result of that, we're now doing an ongoing monthly update. We're also holding quarterly meetings with the property management teams at the different apartment complexes to continue to educate them. They do have turnover in staff. when we know they have turnover in staff, we schedule meetings with them to educate them, so to speak, on our requirements and such, so that they understand that these units are different and need to be treated differently and need to be recorded differently, and we need to be provided information and such and keep them on track. And we have a database now. We know where all the units that are occupied. We also know that if something stays unoccupied for, I don't know, 30 days, 60 days, we're inquiring what's going on. We don't want that unit to be housing someone that doesn't qualify for the program.
And as I understand it, if it's vacant for a certain amount of time, do they have to go down in the AMI requirement, or?
That's our business decision. When we do a restrictive covenant on the entire development, there's so many workforce units. We have 4 different income categories in the workforce program, and we provide a obligation in all 4 of those categories. So say if there's 12 units, you'll have 3 in each of the categories. What we advise them, instead of holding out for the higher income category, if they're not showing up to rent it to a lower income household, but you have to rent it at the lower income rental figure. You can't charge the higher income just because you would like to. So it's a business decision of those property managers and the owners of those developments of whether they want the units to be sitting there unoccupied or whether they want somebody in it that's at least paying some rent. So we see it across the board. Some places, they'll keep them empty. They may provide, in some other cases we've seen them provide them at lower income with lower income households.
Follow up? Sure. And so just for my own knowledge, these units aren't just unincorporated. These would be any units, because sometimes, there's if it's a offsite, what is not offsite?
It's an exchange program.
Exchange, thank you. If it's the exchange program, it could be in a municipality. We're monitoring those as well.
Yes,
Anything
as long as they're involved, if the unit started at an unincorporated county as part of our program and they did an exchange, which we've seen in City of Lake Worth Beach and also in the City of West Palm Beach, we're monitoring the workforce units in those developments.
Do we have any type of partnership with the municipalities for monitoring their workforce or affordable units that maybe we didn't help fund, but is there any, do we know? Is there any type of joint compliance with that, or?
Well, the programs in some cases are totally different.
Okay.
So we're having one of those that's going to be coming online soon in the City of West Palm Beach, the Spruce in the Northwood Village area. They've got units that the city has required as workforce, and they also have done an exchange with several developers in the unincorporated county. So it's going to be interesting to see how this works, because we have 2 different programs, we have 2 different income categories, rental figures. It's going to be a challenge, but that's the way it is, and we will do the best we can to keep them, the units that are from our program, in line.
So as far as that dashboard, then what we have, that's voluntary information from rental properties within cities that are giving us this information, but we don't necessarily monitor compliance on all of those. Is that correct?
No,
Okay.
not unless they've come through the county's program. We're not monitoring them. If they're in a city, a municipal program, the municipal has their own staff that does the monitoring for those units.
And last question, if I could. The numbers that you gave us are just our numbers. Do we happen to know countywide how many, I know with that, maybe we have somewhat of an indication how many workforce and affordable units do we actually have?
I would have to, I'm not that familiar with that. I'm sure there's probably the ability of doing some sort of query on all those different projects, but.
Okay, that's something
We'll look into that.
Okay, thank you.
And while it was unfortunate what happened in Wellington, and it hit the front page of the Post, it was actually a wake-up call for all of us to make sure that there was oversight. And I'd like to thank the county for tackling this, because it isn't easy to follow 2 units in one apartment complex over here, and it might be 2 different units next year. So it's a large task that we've asked you all to do, and we do appreciate it. And the best we can do is make sure that people are sticking to what they want and what they're supposed to do, I mean. And if you think about a unit going vacant for a month or 2, if it was $100 less and that unit is vacant for 1 month, it's already a wash. If it's, so it is a business decision, and it's the same as like paying a fine. It's a business decision. What's the cost of doing business? Do you want to keep it empty for 1 or 2 or 3 months to get the higher rent, but you've already lost that higher rent by being vacant? So yes, it's a business decision. Hopefully they're making the better one. I have several more lights on, Commissioner Wise.
Thank you. Thanks for the excellent presentation. Really, this is, for the public that's watching. Can you, we use the term workforce and affordable housing almost interchangeably. Can you explain the difference between the 2 programs?
Sure. When the county uses the term workforce housing, we're typically referring to the income range targeted by PZB's workforce housing program. That's from 60% of area median income all the way up to 140% of area median income. To put dollar figures to that, that's from $62,000 on the low end all the way up to $145,000 on the high end. So that's the workforce housing range as it relates to household income. When we talk about affordable housing, we're talking, there's some overlap between the 2, but we're talking about the lower end of the spectrum from no income all the way up to 80% of area median income. And 80% of area median income right now for a family of 4 is $85,650. So affordable housing, this end, lower end of the spectrum, workforce housing, broad middle of the spectrum.
Thank you. Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And I would just support the idea that Commissioner Flores talked about earlier with regard to the fee in lieu. We know the board had discussed those things prior to our arrival, but we're here now. So since myself and Commissioner Flores are here, and absent us having those conversations, and technically, it's a new board. It's a new board. So we'd like to kind of engage in those conversations as well. I would seem to agree that the fee in lieu being $142,000, $145,000 would be rather low. But I know I want to thank Planning and Zoning for having a meeting with me with regard to housing and starting to take a little bit of a deep dive into this. Is the number one issue for me and for many of us here in Palm Beach County. People cannot afford to live here. We talked about it when I was in the legislature, and it's been the conversation over and over again. Being priced out of paradise is a beautiful place to live. We got great weather, but a bulk of the people who grew up here can't afford to stay. There's people who've lived here their whole life, and they're now forced to try to move to different states, not just different cities, different states. So anything that we can do to help to mitigate that would be great. And it's just another comment, and it just blows my mind, even when we talk about affordable and workforce housing, that when we talk about the idea of workforce housing and 140% of AMI, and talking about or just referencing $145,000 for a household, that's insane, right? And we're saying that's affordable, and we're talking about that being the income to be a 30-something percent of what people should be able to make to be able to afford, right? You got to be making, because anything over 30% of your income is not affordable. So you've got to be making over $145,000. we've got a lot of work to do. I'm ready to dive in. I think the rest of the board is ready to dive in. And I will just say this on the record and continue to say this. I know it's necessary that we fight for rental units. I get it. But we really, the way we change people's lives is homeownership opportunities. I'm going to push for that during my time here. And the more people we can get into homes, ownership homes, it doesn't necessarily have to be single family. We talked about townhomes and condos. If they can own it, I think that changes people's lives and also changes their trajectory in terms of economic development. And the ability to close the wealth gap. Those are my comments.
And I think also what's important is not just housing the homeless, but making sure people don't become homeless. I think that's, even maybe more of a topic of conversation is keeping people in the homes that they're in. So that's further discussion. Commissioner Sachs.
What a beautiful board, I tell you. I love to hear these comments. I love to hear what y'all have been talking about. Taking off of what Mayor Marino just said, if a family, and I'm asking you because I don't know the answer to this, a family's in one of our affordable housing making $62,000, they lose their job, or somebody gets sick, or the car breaks down, they can't get to work. What happens when they can't make the rent in one of our affordable housing units?
We do have the county does have a number of emergency rental assistance programs. These would be available to tenants whether they are in a county-assisted rental unit or whether they're just in, a privately developed, owned and operated unit. These programs provide emergency one-time financial assistance to prevent eviction of that family from the housing unit.
Could you give me provide also to my colleagues some statistics on that, because I've had people who've been evicted and they're thrown right out in the street. And these are women and kids. And I know that our Legal Aid Society works with us. So we need to know more about that, because sometimes these folks are like one paycheck away from being in the street. Wow, as Commissioner Powell said, this is the issue of the day here in Palm Beach, and it's not going to get better. We have a challenge, not a crisis, a challenge. So whatever we can do to work with you, we're ready to do it. Whether it comes down to even the temperature of the day that we get people in shelters, to what happens when a family with 3 kids can't afford that rent at one of our places. Where do they go? How do we help them? Some of these folks don't have phones. Their phones have been cut off. So they can't access our website. They kind of laugh at me when I say that. So more information. Ms. Baker, kudos to you for having this team, because I think they care. I think we just need to work together and see what we can do. Thank you so much. Thanks, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. And Commissioner Powell brought up something that reminded me what I also wanted to ask, because I know in several of our discussions when a project comes before us, we talk a lot about AMI and which percentage we're talking about. And my request each time has been, what is the actual rent amount? Or if it's going to be a for sale unit, what is the for sale amount? Because that's why for the bond allocations, we lowered it to 110% AMI, which was still significant for a subsidized unit. But I don't know if you can pull it up now, but it's something for our new commissioners to be made aware of because the formula, as I remember, I think it comes from HUD, and it's based on area median income, which is very, very high. And when we have to take that formula in to calculate these percentages, the rental amounts can end up being $3,500 or higher. And that's just, I can't swallow that as affordable. And, that's the discussion every time when we're discussing this. I think it's important that we don't just say percentage of AMI or whatever that is, that we need to see that in dollars. Like, what's the actual rent and what is can you pull that up now? She's pulling it up.
I have it available in front of me as well. I can
Okay.
speak to it
So if you could
you'd
just,
like.
on the top end of that, if we're looking at a 3-bedroom at 140% AMI, what's the rental?
Sure. At 140% of AMI, for a 3-bedroom rental unit, that's $3,800.
And that is what is considered affordable under this work, which
At that
as
income
the
level,
percentage, the formula that we're given, that's our numbers, which is why we as a board do have the discretion to lower that, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And our department has taken this board's direction to limit assistance to rental projects to units serving no greater than 110% of area median income, as you said. The 110% upper rent for a 3-bedroom unit, it's used apples to apples, right now that's going to be $3,000. I think what you find is that those highest income level rents, the 140%, 120%, often those rent limits exceed what that unit would fetch at market rate. So although it's the limit established by the program, the developer is only going to be able to charge and fetch for that unit what the market will bring to it.
Yeah. So just because it was important to me, and I'm sure it was important for our new commissioners to understand that those numbers, the formula is dictated, but we don't have to accept up to 140% when we are approving projects or we are allocating money for this. If we're subsidizing, we can lower that to even 110% is high, but for some of these projects, they convinced us that they needed it to make it work, but the rental amounts or the for sale amounts, that's the real numbers that we need, not just talking AMI numbers, because that doesn't compute in the same way. So thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you. Okay.
If I could just add to that, Tammy
Sure.
Fields, Assistant County Administrator, we definitely heard the board about these numbers. And so one of the things that we're doing now with all future agenda items is this chart will be included in all of the agenda items, so you've got the numbers handy.
Thank you very much. I have no more lights on. So now we're on to our next and
Thank you,
final.
Commissioners.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
So next team is Substance Use and Behavioral Disorders, cross-departmental team.
And so while we
It's the
gave
green
everybody
team.
10 minutes to do the presentation, it doesn't mean that we're cutting off discussion. Thank you.
Okay. Hello. Good afternoon, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and County Administrator Baker. I am Dr. Twyla Taylor with the Youth Services Department. Our cover slide highlights our amazing tropical home that is filled with resources and support for our individuals and families living with substance and mental health challenges. We are sailing as a county with our community partners to shine a light and break down silos to address this critical strategic priority. As you can see, we are a diverse group of individuals from 12 county departments, all dedicated to one mission: to illuminate access points within the county to assist individuals and families to connect to systems of care related to substance use and mental health. Palm Beach County's commitment to a system of care is robust, with just some of the major highlights included on this timeline. Palm Beach County's major efforts began prior to 2017 and have been consistent and grown even stronger with the creation of this cross-departmental team in 2019. I will now turn it over to Jennifer Diaz with Victim Services.
In 2024, we created the Palm Beach County Linktree for mental health and substance use services and information to offer virtual access point for the community as well as the professionals that serve individuals seeking resources and support. The team created badges and posters with a linked QR code and web address, which have been distributed to the county departments and community partners such as 211, the Healthcare District, Homeless and Housing Alliance, and PBSO. PBC Graphics has print-ready files if county departments are interested in ordering badges and posters for distribution. One example of how our county is investing in care is the approved opioid settlement funds distribution. The county will have approximately $9.4 million budgeted this year, with a total of almost $122.5 million through year 2039, through regional abatement and city-county funds to initiate, expand, or enhance programs that address social determinants of health and deep-end treatments services. Allocations in any given year are to remain consistent over the next 15 years, solidifying pathways for those living with substance and mental health disorders. Palm Beach County has a victim services program that serves clients with compassion and respect while assisting victims of sexual assault, domestic violence, homicide, and other violent crimes through crisis response, advocacy, therapy, and community awareness. Over 30,000 individuals were reached through all services this past fiscal year.
We are proud to share that Youth Services has provided approximately 120,000 hours of mental health services in the past fiscal year, helping guide children, teens, and caregivers through challenges to advance our mission of growing brighter futures by providing quality service, education, and access to resources and opportunities. Palm Beach County Fire Rescue is also a key entry point for individuals with mental health, substance, and alcohol use disorders, serving over 7,000 patients this past fiscal year. The Mobile Integrated Health Team, or MIH, social workers, and paramedics provide compassionate, equitable care and critical intervention, often at the point of crisis. As part of a harm reduction kit that is inclusive of Narcan, MIH distributes challenge coins to remind patients that help is always there for them. This CDT has also sparked several cross-departmental collaborations. A few highlights this year include Youth Services hosting the first ever mental health family day camp at Okehele Nature Park, and Parks and Recreation supporting the Fire Watch program, which is aimed at preventing veteran suicide. And Fire Rescue and Parks and Recreation launching Parks RX, a tool promoting outdoor activity, exercise, and recreation to improve mental health, physical wellness, and recovery.
Part of our collaborative spirit is partnering with individuals we serve to not only know where to find help, but how to get there. Access to services is crucial. This team identified a need for increased transportation options to recovery-oriented services and supports in our county. In partnership with Palm Tran, this team created the bus route roadmap which identified stops and routes directly correlated to agencies, programs, and resources related to substance use and mental health. This slide showcases the roadmap and some of the highlighted locations along several bus routes. The services and supports we offer our county would not be possible with our employees. And just as with those we serve, we too can face challenges with mental health and substance use. Employees can schedule appointments for personal needs, and supervisors can contact the Employee Assistance Program for wellness or safety concerns. The EAP is confidential, except in cases involving harm to others or self. And services are provided by a licensed therapist and supervised interns. In fiscal year 24, participation in educational and training programs increased by 164%, showing that our employee family knows EAP is there for them. Palm Beach County is dedicated to meeting the needs of all residents with innovative programs and services, and we are not stopping here. We already have ideas and vision for 2025 and are honored to continue our mission for Palm Beach County by shining light on services and support. Thank you for your time and energy today. We welcome any questions and comments.
Thank you, and I don't have a single light on, but that was a job well done, and we much, much, much appreciate it. So thank you.
Thank you.
All righty, and since there really is no official action for this,
I
you
just
have a card.
Just wanted to mention, you should all have badges that we provided, as well as your challenge coins up there. So we encourage you to use them and scan them. And yes, I'm so happy to see that. Thank you.
Ms. Baker?
If there are no comments from the board.
We have one public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Thank you. So we have no public comment. So, Ms. Baker, can we go? Do you want us to go right to staff comments? Is there anything you'd like
Yeah,
to add? Because I know you have to leave.
Yes, I would like, number one, to thank Keith and Marcella, Sherry, and County Attorney, forgive me. Behar, I'm sorry, it escaped me. I was going to call you something else. David, for their leadership on this, and to give a big, hearty thank you to all of the cross-functional teams. It's a lot of work that they work together on. I know the last week was a bit long. This one was a little shorter, and we thank you for your interaction, your questions. But this shows that we've taken down the silos in the county. We are working across teams. And yes, some of my peers are asking how we're doing our cross-functional team. And we've been able to save taxpayers' dollars as a part of working together, one department knowing what another department is doing, and scheduling our capital programs in conjunction so that we don't go in one year, tear up a road, and then the next 2 or 3 years go in for underground infrastructure. So this has worked, and I wanted to publicly thank my staff for all the hard work and dedication that they put into this. So thank you for allowing us to present.
Mayor, just one comment.
Sure.
So last year this time, you gave us direction based on the opinion survey, resident opinion survey, to divide housing and homelessness. Correct. And we divided into 2 teams, unsheltered residents and housing development. This usually is the time, and we have new commissioners on board, where you give us guidance and let us know, are the 7 strategic priorities to stay for the next year or next year or two, or are you looking for any changes? So I just wanted to put it out there, because usually this is a workshop where we ask that question.
Well, I will defer to our 2 new commissioners. I'm not sure that they've got a grasp on where they want their priorities to be, but any input that Commissioner Flores or Commissioner Powell would like to bring to the table right now would be great.
So now that you asked or you posed that question, could we put this on the agenda at the next one, just to follow back up with that direction? Because I don't think I'm ready at this point. Thank you.
For the October, for this month's workshop, we're going to be talking about budget operational, and we will need you to give us direction on whether you want to stay with the current 7 strategic priorities or you want to change, because I build my budget to submit to you based upon the board's strategic priorities. So if we don't do it today, we can definitely do it at the beginning of our budget workshop next week, and we'll have the 7 strategic, which are here, shown up here. So we can put something together to give to board members to remind you what they are, and then work closely with any board member that wants to what those strategic priorities are. Hopefully the information we provided today gives you some groundwork, and then we'll be happy to meet with you.
I think the presentations, both the ones we had last week and these, give good guidance to our new commissioners, and any questions that you might have between now and the workshop, please. I mean, this is a great thing that we've done, that Ms. Baker has put together, because it really does, and I hate the expression break down silos. That's like one we've beaten, it's like beating a dead horse. But if we're not communicating, and any person who is a leader, they talk about communication. So if people are not communicating, you have no idea what direction to go in. And if you don't tell them what direction you want to go in, you're never going to get there. So you've done that by having these teams, and the 7 presentations were well thought out. And Commissioner Powell, anything you want to add, or we're good till the workshop?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think we're good until the workshop. I tend to agree with Commissioner Flores in terms of, having an opportunity to look at this a little bit more, wrap our heads around it. But yeah, thank you. Thank you.
Thank
you to the team for the excellent presentations today. It gives us a better understanding of what's going on outside of what we're doing and in the larger scheme of everything that you're doing to collaborate to make this the best county to live, work, and play.
Thank you. Ms. Baker, anything else? I know you. Okay. So at that point, since we'll come back to board appointments, since we're on staff comments, we'll come back to board appointments and board comments. County Attorney, anything? Okay. So let's go to board appointments to see if anyone has any appointments. Commissioner Powell, do you have any appointments? Okay. Commissioner Weiss.
Yes, Mayor. I'd like to appoint Gary Vonk to the Palm Beach County Educational Facilities Authority.
Vonk, V-O-N-K, right? Dr. Gary Vonk, right? V-O-N-K? Thank you. Commissioner Flores, anybody you would like to appoint anywhere?
Yes, I have 7 individuals. Do I read them all out loud? All right, I got Maria Mercado Bancourt, Advisory Commission on Women, Humberto Rivera, Aviation and Airport Advisory Board, Axel Miranda, Discover the Palm Beaches, Francisco Cuello, Fair Housing Equal Employment Board, Maria Martinez Rivera, Library Advisory Board, Richard Dunn, Planning Commission, and Claudia Mendoza, Zoning Commission.
Okay, would you mind handing that to the clerk?
Sure.
Perfect. Thank you. Commissioner Sachs, any appointments?
No, none at this time.
Commissioner Woodward?
None at this time.
Okay, and I have none also.
3, I think.
So now let's go to comments from the board. So we'll start with Commissioner Powell.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I would like to ask for permission to do an off-site proclamation in honor of Marion Dozier, who was a former longtime aide of mine while in the Florida Senate, who passed away, and her memorial service will be held on January the 26th. So I would request permission from the board to do an off-site proclamation. Thank you.
All in favor?
Aye.
See that it carries 6-0. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anything else?
That is it. Thank you for the presentations today, and that's it.
Thank you. Commissioner Weiss.
Thank you, Mayor. A couple things. One is reminder, on Monday, this coming Monday, January 20th, here in Palm Beach County, we will be celebrating Martin Luther King Day. So offices will be closed, but I want to remind folks as well that on Monday, we will be holding the annual MLK Coordinating Committee Scholarship Breakfast. And so if you haven't gotten a ticket, you have until tomorrow to buy a ticket online. So you can just Google MLK CC PBC, and you'll come to the website and can order a ticket. And I also wanted to just take a moment with our friends in Los Angeles County, where I originally hailed from. Unfortunately, they were not able to put out the wildfires as of yet. The winds have picked back up again today, and we know thousands of structures have been lost out there. Part of the communities, my mother lived in Pacific Palisades for over 30 years. Fortunately, we moved her out of there about 5 years ago, but many of her neighbors were still there. And her complex, like many homes in that area, was totally destroyed. So I don't know if they have reached out. I know NACO has been working on trying to help provide support for them, but literally thousands of structures are gone, and these folks are suffering, so we'll keep them in our prayers.
Thank you. Commissioner Flores.
So I would like to request an off-site proclamation for a group that is celebrating Arbor Day on Friday, and it's for Arbor Day in Lake Worth.
All in favor? Aye. All opposed? See that it carries 6-0.
Thank you.
Anything else? Anything else?
That's it. Thank you.
Commissioner Sachs.
Thank you, Mayor. I thought it was a really good meeting today, and I welcome the input of our 2 new commissioners. I think it's like a breath of fresh air. I was very pleased and proud to see the library opening in my district, and I welcome everybody to come and visit with it. It's more than books. It's more than books. And my heart goes out to Commissioner Weiss and his family there in Los Angeles, because it's a beautiful place, beautiful people out there. So I expect some of them to be coming here pretty soon. Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Woodward.
Thank you, Mayor. And yes, condolences to California. The videos I just can't even watch. It's really horrible. Hopefully it gets under control very soon. We'll see. On a slightly happier note, I did want to let everyone know Boca Raton is celebrating its 100th year this year with a series of all kinds of celebrations, but the first one being January 25th. It's sort of the kickoff to the centennial celebration at Meisner Park. That's next Saturday, which I don't think we meet before then, so I just wanted to let everyone know. But there's a number of celebrations happening through the next several months for that. And we have the fair, I think, starting. I don't know if you were going to mention that. I was just going to remind, usually or Vice Mayor Baxter would probably be on that. But the fair starting this Friday and runs through, I think, February 2nd. So good times to be had. Hopefully everyone can have a chance to get out there.
Thank you. Would you please request an off-site proclamation for me?
I would, requesting an off-site proclamation for the mayor recognizing the town of Jupiter's centennial celebration to be given on Saturday, February 8th, 2025. Jupiter was officially incorporated as a town on February 9th, 1925.
Thank you. Second. All in favor? Aye. Thank you. That passes 6-0. On a personal note, I want to wish my mom and dad, tomorrow they will be married 69 years. So I want to wish them a happy anniversary. And Mom says, I'm making it to 70. So go, Mom and Dad. I think that's wonderful. Also, we have the 2025 municipal elections, and per section 102.141, 1E2, the Palm Beach County Supervisor of Elections will be setting up a super county canvassing board to provide assistance to municipal elections. Under the same statute, it designates that the chair of the Board of County Commissioners, myself, will serve as one of 3 members of the canvassing board, and in that capacity I will serve. But we also ask for alternates, and the statute provides for the chair of the county commission to select alternate members to serve on the canvassing board. For this election, we are asking for Commissioner Greg Weiss and Commissioner Joel Flores to both be appointed as alternate members to the canvassing board. And just a caveat, no endorsing of anybody. Have you endorsed anybody? Okay, good. So, do I need a motion for that? No, you just do it. Just appoint it? Okay, you guys are appointed. I do my magic wand, you're appointed. Boom, 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 boom. And because it says, can I have an emotion for these appointments? So, motion. All right. All in favor? Motion carries. The motion was made by Commissioner Powell, seconded by, okay. Thank you. Third, I received a letter from Digital Vibes. I'm sure you're all familiar with them. They are moving to seek some appropriations at the legislative level for their Let's Move 365 initiative. They would like us to write a letter in support. I would love to be able to do that for them. And they haven't gotten the wheels in motion yet, and Ed Chase has suggested that we as a board support adding it to the list of local appropriations that the county supports. So not only would we be writing a letter, we would also include it in our local initiatives that we would support if the board would be so inclined.
I would make a motion to do that.
Okay, I got a motion and a second.
Comment, Mayor.
And Commissioner Powell, comment?
For background too, we did get that in the budget last year, but it was vetoed after everything was in the budget. So I think it's a great idea. So, yep.
Perfect.
Double it, no.
Perfect. We love them. Will does such a great job with that, and as a county, we support them also. And you will see them at a lot of things that the county does and goes to. So close to my heart. Anything that's making kids out there move, I love it. So we had a motion and a second, and all in favor? Aye. Motion carries 6-0. And with that, I think we are done for the day at 4:06. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you all for your time today.